Greetings and welcome to the Real FERM podcast. Welcome back or welcome here if it happens to be your first time. It's been the past couple weeks of just been a UFO podcast. Maybe I should just change the name. I don't know. Everyone's taking up the good names out there, and I'm not necessarily dedicating every episode, but pretty much from now on, I don't know. We'll see. It's just I don't know. No need to go into the history of why this is what it is, but it is what it is now. Last week I talked about, there's been a trend of just following what Ross Coulthart and Reality Check from NewsNation is putting out, because he seems to always have a new guest each week with some nice, not necessarily super groundbreaking or potentially groundbreaking, if it is true, information, people talking about information, but just things that kind of shift your perspective if you're into it. He had on a guy named Matthew Pines, which is, it's another good example of a very respectable, rational, credible person speaking on this sort of thing. We'll get into that. And I'm going to try not to make this one an hour. I'm going to try to keep this one under an hour. So there's just a couple clips from that. And then I want to talk about Reddit, a thing I saw on Reddit that has to do with the potential information regarding the alien interview thing, the Victor alien. Anyway, we'll get into it. And let's get into it. Alright, so last week we did on the topic of the orbs in the outback. Yeah, mate. What was it? Oh, shit, I forgot the guy's name. Well, Andrew Morgan, Dr. Andrew Morgan. And went deep into that, because that was a long interview that he did and a lot of information in there that I unpacked. This one, I'm not going to go through the whole one, although it is an hour interview with this man, Matthew Pines. I just want to cover quick bites of it, just to give some interesting things he says, mainly because of his background. And the reason why I like it in particular is because he's not another military guy, and he's not he's a science type of person, but he's not a scientific, he's not like an investigator, like Dr. Andrew Morgan was. This guy's like he's in the financial space, and then he's involved with the Jake Barber thing, Skywatcher, and some other things, and crypto and all this other stuff. And he has a background in my common root of physics, but that's not what he does now. And let me just start playing some of the clips I have from him, so I can start bouncing off of it. But to come, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the alien video, and then I want to keep this. I used to, before I started getting more obsessed with the UFO stuff on here, I used to have a Florida Man of the Week segment, which I kind of still want to do, but it's just been too much talking about getting lost in thought, and then time going by, and then not really thinking about it, kind of thing. But the point is, I want to bring back like recurring segments. So Reddit is a place which is where I got the Florida Man of the Week from, mostly. Reddit's always a good, so in the theme, the theme of the spirit of the great spirits in the universe sky, the alien ETs, going to Reddit once per episode to find something of interest, what people are talking about on there recently, or someone's experienced something like that. And then, I don't know if I'll get to this week, but ask ChatGPT. always forget to use the voice thing on here. It can be fun. Anyway, let's get to the main thing of the day, which is Matthew Pines. This is how it opens up here. Let's play it.
Welcome to Reality Check. And isn't covering UAPs one hell of a pivot from what you normally do in the sober world of national security?
Well, first off, thank you, Ross. I've admired your work and I appreciate you bringing me on to your show. It may seem like that, but my through line throughout my sort of academic and professional career has always been thinking about one frontier subjects. When I was a young lad, I thought I was going to get a PhD in physics, maybe even a PhD in philosophy at the same time. So I was always interested in these more foundational and kind of frontier questions, and then embarked on a career in national security where a lot of the analysis and work I did was focused on these what if questions, like what if.
So just stop right there to comment. I think that's another reason why right from the start, this is like the beginning of the interview. Very much kindred curiosity spirits I have with this man. I also wanted to be a physics professor, PhD, specifically to work in the academic fields as a professor and researcher at a university, but I opted for the master's route and tried to make money faster. But that panned out not how I wanted to, but it's okay. I'm getting back into it. It's all good. Anyway, so that's cool. And then he starts talking about how he's always been. Well, Ross opened up with the question. It's quite a pivot from the sober world, as he described it, I think, to which is a great way to describe it. I love the classical definition of sober, nothing to do with, in particular, with being drunk or high or the absence of that state of mind. It's more of the state of mind of just being rational and clear-headed. Like, if you're in a state of rage, you are not sober. If you are extremely sleep deprived, you're not sober. These kinds of things. If you're having a psychotic breakdown, you're not sober. You can be thoroughly intoxicated and still be sober. That's how I like to think about it. Truly, that's not even a joke. I mean, eventually you won't be sober, but anyway, that was a random tangent. That's how I roll. Let's keep hearing what he has to say.
It's like, what if there is a improvised nuclear device sort of terrorist attack? What if there is full-on nuclear war? What if there are crippling cyber attacks? What if you have global pandemics? These sort of low probability, high consequence events are things the government has to plan and prepare for. And so I did a lot of analysis exercises, operational experimentation to try to sketch out what that scenarios, what those scenarios might look like. And so UAPs, right, as sort of fantastical they are, they sort of represent maybe the most high consequence and maybe prima facie low probability scenario, but which would have significant implications. And so even if you think it's unlikely, you have to take it seriously if there are credible indications, as came to the fore over the past number of years, that this is a scenario that can't just be dismissed. And so then, wearing my normal sort of analytic national security hat on, this is a what if scenario that had to be addressed very seriously. And I think it's only become more pressing over the years.
That's exactly how I feel. I couldn't have said it better. He's analytics, all of this stuff in his background and in his foreground, current ground. But he's always been interested in the what ifs and the frontier questions, as he said. And the UAP thing comes up, and then you start hearing all like corroborated stories over the decades. It's like, well, this seems like there's something to this. Maybe I should pay it some mind. And coming from a guy like this is just another solid reminder that if you believe, because if you're into this stuff, chances are majority of people in your life are not into this stuff, unless you live in a UFO commune, which I kind of wish I did at some points. But you can easily start to get swayed, like, am I just a crazy conspiracy guy? which is fine. I don't really care. I'm past the point of caring on that, but it is nice to just internally hear more people like this guy talking about it in a way that's not just throwing it aside like it's hogwash. I clipped some extra parts here. I'm not sure if I want to watch them. This may be cut not in perfect continuity of the video of me. Okay, what you just heard me say before you're hearing me now is exactly what I was referring to. Yeah, we're going to move on to the next part that I clipped here. I got to be better at cutting these up properly. And let's hear what this next one is.
Do you see it as an inevitable slippery slope?
I don't, but I would need to be convinced, right? Like, I don't see, like, the fact that, for example, right now, I've updated my beliefs on the fact that non-human intelligence is real and that technologies of unknown origin that manifest knowledge of physics and, therefore associated understanding of the nature of reality that is radically different than the sort of current theoretical frameworks that govern academic physics. But I don't know how to build those craft, right?
So there we have him straight up admitting that he's inclined to believe that this sort of thing is a reality, given also that it is beyond our domain of academic physics, as he describes. Again, same way that I feel. Let's continue.
Personal beliefs that there is a reality of non-human intelligence, and I think there's zero proliferation risk that is now generated as a result of me acquiring that knowledge. And I don't see how that doesn't play out at scale, right? Now, of course, over the long term, the world is the world is, right? And human science and knowledge ultimately seeks out and exploits the degrees of freedom that are available to us. That's what we call physics and science and technology. And so if the world just, allows a certain capability, it will be created eventually. And the role of government is to ensure that the technology is, harnessed for the advancement and security of all of our people. And I think, this is where it's a more philosophical question. Is there black balls in the big jar of knowledge? And if you pull out a black ball, is that inherently, dangerous knowledge? Is there such a thing as dangerous knowledge? I agree there is such a thing as dangerous knowledge, but that doesn't mean you never take your hand out of the jar, right? You go to, a sort of a Kaczynski approach to technology where we should all just be living in the forest. I don't think that's the right approach, but I think it's a false choice, right? I think we just need to break these false choices.
So now you got him talking about the world. The world will allow, if it can happen, the world will allow. And then it goes on to talk about the government. Dangerous is there dangerous knowledge? Yeah, yada yada. I just love the way he talks. I mean, again, there's nothing really particularly insightful about that part, other than just I love that he's so eloquent and he speaks with a distinct articulation but also reverence to these ideas. There's a couple more things he says here that are associated with previous topics, and in particular Jake Barber and how he's tied to involved with Jake Barber. Let's hear this one.
You're now a strategic advisor, of course, for the NER Explorers Club and Skywatcher. And the implications of that are that if Jake Barber's predictions do turn out to be true, it's entirely plausible, according to Jake, that he and his team will be able to summon and convincingly obtain proof of a non-human technology, possibly even within months. Do you agree?
I mean, these folks, if there's any group of people that I know of that can make that claim and not be laughed out of a room, it's these folks, right? And so I take their claims and their professional bona fides and their organization and their good faith efforts very seriously. It's why.
So yet another person associated with Jake Barber, knowing Jake Barber, who also has great credibility and respect publicly, but from another different field, is coming out to attest to his character and whatnot. I just like to bolster that because I believe Jake Barber as well. And the more people that talk about him, especially that know him and are working with him, the better I feel about believing Jake Barber. Now, I can hear the hardcore skeptics screaming and hypothetically in my head now. he's involved in finance. He's looking to make money too. Maybe, I guess it's possible. I've already went over my deductive reasoning on why I think it's more unlikely that it's the case that they're all grifting about this. Not that it's impossible. I just really I don't want to keep re-spewing that again. Go find that in previous episodes. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out because he is into the finance world, so you could easily be assuaged to is that the word, to be like, oh, of course he's involved with the Jake Barber thing. They're setting off to make a bunch of money. Specifically with Jake Barber, I still don't know what the profit thing is with the Skywatcher. That's not clear to me if there is one. Again, if someone has a direct explanation as to how this project from Jake Barber and the venture capitalists, yes, working with him, is going to siphon money from believers and UFO community people for their own benefit just based on greed, do let me know, because I have not seen that yet. Let's continue.
Why I've
Onward.
decided to advise them, because I think it's highly significant and unique, the effort that they're about to undertake, and it's fraught, right, with all these larger implications. And I think they want to and they are going about it in a diligent fashion. And this is ultimately what it comes down to: is you can either impress upon the government and work through these processes to try to get information released over time, and going through all the different bureaucratic and political filters, or you can just recognize, well, if there are non-human intelligence operating in our area, if they are susceptible to various means of interrogation and engagement, the skies aren't classified, right? Those means and methods aren't classified. The skills and capabilities of these people are now in the private domain. This is a straight path to bring information, high quality, high fidelity, censored data, including maybe material information, to civil society, to academic institutions, in a fashion that sort of bypasses these bureaucratic procedures and these political procedures in DC. And that's ultimately, just a parallel path I think it should be explored.
Hell yeah, right on. So that's the way to do it. He believes in it. I believe that he believes in it. And again, just to bolster the belief and credibility in Jake Barber's, not just his testimony, but the Skywatcher program by the government, the bureaucracy, the this and that. The skies aren't classified. You can, all the best of luck and goodwill and positive vibes to that organization and what's the word I'm looking for? Movement, I guess, to get that off the ground and working well, because that would be great. And yeah, I like to believe the people that invest money in that, the venture capitalists, they are probably looking for a return, or they're just angel investor types, and they have a bunch of money to spend, and they're like, well, I'm interested in finding out if I can find hard evidence for this NHI stuff. I'm going to invest a bunch of money. That's what I would. Are you kidding me? If I won one of the $1 billion lottery payouts, I would. That's probably one of the things I would start giving my money to, with no asking of returns, for that matter. All right, so two more things. One more. He talks about the reverse engineering thing. Ross asks him about reverse engineering programs, and then he signs off with a cryptic message that I'm going to get to, and then we'll move on to the Reddit stuff. Let's see.
Have you ever heard the whispers that there is this program in operation, this reverse engineering program with retrieved non-human technology?
I mean, I've heard. Again, it's like there's an elephant, and you touch a tail, you touch a toe, you touch a tusk, and you're like, I think this is an elephant, but nobody comes out and says it's an elephant, right? It's a very unusual tusk. It's a very unusual tail, right? So there's obviously individuals that are in the public domain, the folks that have come out, spoken at Soul Foundation, that have made the clear and declarative, allegation of these programs, and those folks have the bona fides, and I'm very confident in the quality and the source of their assertions. But it also comports with other information that I've gleaned in various more snippets, right, of that elephant that generally paint this mosaic of, yes, like these are longstanding, I think somewhat fragmented, compartmentalized programs that exist across a smattering of different defense primes, and then are custodied in a variety of different locations. And this is an active program at scale.
Hell yeah, exactly. Big elephant that you can feel all of its parts from you, but you don't really know it's an elephant. Great analogy. He believes there's something to it, highly compartmentalized, but gathering the information, I won't say evidence, the information, although a lot of people call it evidence, but it is anecdotal evidence, that would be the word for it. Unless you consider some of the videos and photos evidence, but anyone can say they're fake, whatever. Oh, it's a mess. It's a mess. Logically and evidentially, for that matter. But yeah, I really like this guy. I like, once again, in conclusion, he's just another variety from another sector of the world, the society, the economy, socioeconomical background, and scientific and reasonable and all that, giving credence to and being involved in this. Shout out to him, Matthew Pines. But before we finish up with him, let's hear, this is how he signs off. And remember, he's a Bitcoin, I forgot what it said at the beginning. You'll see something about Bitcoin fellowship, something to do with crypto. But let's hear how he signs off the interview.
Well, I think we've put on our seatbelts, and it's going to be a bumpy ride. But Matthew Pines, thank you so much for giving us your analysis on Reality Check. Look forward to having you on again sometime. And good luck in your new role with the Bitcoin Institute. Maybe one day you can explain to us why we should all buy cryptocurrency. I'm not yet convinced.
I think these are more related subjects than you would imagine.
Thanks very much, Matthew.
Thanks for having me.
What? Like, what does that mean? That's, when I heard that, I was like, that might be the most interesting thing from that whole interview. Ross asks, so he's part of the Bitcoin Institute, something or other. I didn't really research into what exactly that's all about. Obviously, it's about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, but the more important thing is he asked him, what? Yeah, why should I? I'm not convinced I should buy it. Whatever. A little comical sign off to end the interview and relate back to his work in general. And he says the subjects may be more related than you'd think. Huh? Cryptocurrency. NHL, like, does he know something that he's not telling us, or maybe he's speculating that yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. It leads me to think perhaps there is some kind of conspiracy beyond that maybe he's a part of. Something to do with, I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying, my mind immediately goes to, I don't know. Actually, what it immediately goes to is pretty bananas, which is some kind of space currency. But that doesn't make sense. I don't think extraterrestrials are worried about any sort of tokens of value on the blockchain. Maybe they are. I don't know. Who knows? I just thought that was interesting because it seems like, yeah, perhaps something to do with the government. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have to do with literally the UAPs themselves, but it will have to do with how it is dealt with amongst the humans relating with Bitcoin. I don't know. Just a little mind nugget for us from Matthew Pines. Shout out to him. Grade A bloke, along with Ross. I believe that's what I called Ross. At some point in the past, grade A bloke. Don't know where that came from. Bloke, obviously, because of the Australian or New Zealand, one of those accent. Okay, let's move on to the Reddit thing that I was looking up. So again, as I mentioned before, I was thinking I wanted to bring back like segments. That is to say, a recurring theme that changes with variety, but it stays on the same. Like I'm pulling information from r/aliens in this case, and this is what that piqued my interest. With that was posted recently, so now it's 7 hours ago, and in brackets, if you're familiar with r/aliens, you'll kind of get the vibe. Brackets, serious. Jon Stewart press release, not the Daily Show Jon Stewart, not the entertainer. Different Jon Stewart. New information regarding the Victor alien interview in quotes. And I'm going to pull up that video to watch along and comment on during this recording as well. It's pretty. I've seen it before a couple of times. It's not like it's a first reaction, but I just want to tie it together. But anyway, this is what this person is saying. I'll just straight up read it. Hi all. Full disclosure here. I'm the producer for the. I don't know. I'm guessing that's a fun pun. Full disclosure here. I'm the producer for the Night Shift podcast, and I know self-promotion is frowned upon, possibly even against the sub rules. But at the end of the day, this is potentially news, so I'm sharing ahead of time. I'm here representing this. He's putting on his armor because he knows the Reddit community can be, especially r/aliens, and the infiltration of super aggressive, hardcore skeptic, ultra skeptics. I don't want to just say skeptics because skepticism is good. I'm here representing the spirit of journalism, and I assure you my only intention is to promote the topic to further the efforts of disclosure. I genuinely don't know what news/revelations Jon Stewart has to offer, but I can't vouch for it in any way. But we will be showcasing it tomorrow as nonetheless. And I myself am going into tomorrow's show with an open mind. So I don't know about what this I've never heard of this podcast before, but apparently they're having this guy Jon Stewart on to talk about something groundbreaking, as you'll see. And it hasn't come out yet. So this is just him. So but let me read. You'll get a better idea of what's going on here. Right. I will see you tomorrow then, great. If not, no worries. If we see you tomorrow then, great. If not, no worries at all. Keep looking up, Xander. Edit. I just wanted to add that I normally post completely detached from my role at Night Shift, and this sub r/aliens has always been incredibly insightful and, in my opinion, the best community to talk in this space. Before I even read the comments, I was reading that and I'm like, does he know where he is? Okay. No offense to the other subs, of course, but r/aliens will always be my home. Edit 2, this is not the Jon Stewart from The Daily Show. It's a different Jon Stewart. Okay, so let me read the screenshot or picture he sent, which is the press release of the topic that the guy he's interviewing is going to talk about on this upcoming podcast episode that he doesn't know what it is, but he knows that this is what he said about it. For immediate release, Jon Stewart and Brian Pemble to reveal earth-shattering update on 1997 alien interview live on Night Shift with Clint Weldon. Washington, D.C. In what promises to be the most explosive revelation in UFO history, Jon Stewart, investigative documentarian and former Illinois gubernatorial candidate, along with his partner Brian Pemble, is set to unveil jaw-dropping new evidence that will forever change our understanding of the 1997 alien interview. After years of relentless investigation, Stewart and Pemble have uncovered mind-blowing new information that could rewrite the story of non-human intelligence and government secrecy. The highly anticipated live revelation will take place exclusively on Night Shift with Clint Weldon, the hard-hitting podcast known for breaking some of the most significant stories in ufology. This quote, "This is the moment we've all been waiting for," says Stewart. "What we're about to reveal will change everything we thought we knew about the alien interview. This isn't speculation. This is hard evidence that will change the game forever." End quote. For decades, the alien interview has remained one of the most controversial and mysterious pieces of UFO history. The chilling footage of a supposed extraterrestrial being interrogated by government officials has sparked endless debate. Now Stewart and Pemble claim to have uncovered undeniable proof that could finally answer the questions that have haunted investigators for nearly 3 decades. Don't miss history in the making. Tune in live as Jon Stewart breaks his silence and reveal the truth exclusively on Night Shift with Clint Weldon, Friday, February 21st at 2 p.m. EST. So, if you're watching this as shortly after I upload it, it will be either already happened or being live broadcasted as you are watching this. If you do right after I release this, because that's around the same time. So go check that out and then come back here. I don't know, because that seems at the very least interesting to see what this guy has to say. And then furthermore, that's not over. It's almost over, but it ends with, "This isn't just another UFO story. This is the turning point. Ufology will never be the same again. For media inquiries, interviews, or further information, please contact Jon Stewart." Number, hashtags. Okay, so a lot to unpack there. First of all, before I even go into that, the comments are, I mean, some of them are like, okay, whatever. I'm sorry, Jon Stewart, like the Daily Show, Jon Stewart, just to clarify. And then lots of people saying, "I'm sick of the fucking grifters and this." And I got to be honest, in this case, this is the one time where I read it and I'm kind of understanding more the people who are quick to shout grifter at stuff like this. Not that I still am not a fan of just blurting that out every time someone has any perceptible way of making money off of sharing information, which is kind of hard not to at this point, unless you I don't know. Anyway, but when you include language like, and this isn't the podcast's language, this is Jon Stewart's himself using this language in this press release promoting what he's going to say on the podcast. Language like earth-shattering update on the 1997 alien interview, jaw-dropping new evidence will reshape all the stuff I said. The moment we've all been waiting for, about to reveal, will change everything we thought we knew about the alien interview. Hard evidence. This is hard evidence that will change the game. Very, very strong emotional language indicating this is the kind of language that made the Jake Barber interview a letdown for the same people that this is being shared to on the subreddit. Because they pick up when people promote things saying, "This is wild, tune in," and then it's not, sorry, but a piece of or an alien doesn't show up at your door after you watch the video. Like nothing will ever please these types of people, typically. But when you say things like this, you really better deliver. So, but then again, you go to think, well, is this Jon Stewart guy coming out of the woodwork again to get him? I mean, this is where the reasoning starts to kind of make sense if you want to lean in and say maybe he is being a grifter, because grifters do exist. Don't get me wrong. And when you say things like this, and this guy, I don't know that much about this Jon Stewart guy. I've heard his name before in this context, but I'm assuming he's not super wealthy, or I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to make an argument as to what, because if he is doing a grift, this is the way to do it. If you claim you have some knowledge about an obscure video that a lot of people were into but never got the answers on, share it around, find whatever podcast that's open to this information that will, like Joe Rogan's not going to respond to this. So you got to find someone like the Night Shift. No disrespect. I don't know about, I bet it's a riveting program, but I'm sure it's better than this one. I can guarantee you that, because at least there's two people working on it. But yeah, it does kind of seem like it very well could be, but you never know. But again, as the comments just reinforce, people saying stuff like, this is why everyone hates you guys for saying you're journalists, and then you say all this stuff about groundbreaking and then getting our hopes up, and then we get let down, so no one ever believes you anymore, and now everyone's pissed. And it all makes sense. Like, I really don't blame these people for acting like this and thinking like this and really just jumping to these conclusions of people being grifters. I still think they shouldn't do that, but I kind of get where they're coming from. If you, I'll just read a couple. If you or Clint find yourselves duped with this news, please, out of respect for the field, let the guy have it. Just read them the rights on how this campaign of stringing people along is destroying the community's trust in this field. At some point, those bringing us the news in this now legitimate format need to own up and stop the sensationalism that similarly killed the mainstream news outlets for running out of people to trust. Another person, quote, after 70 years, the community is tired of being disappointed. And someone else said, fuck, we don't even trust each other. Everyone thinks everyone is a bot. For sure. Like, it's so, this is why, like, you shouldn't, just as a general rule, you shouldn't, using Reddit as like a user and a frequent commenter, it's probably, it's good to like share your ideas and stuff, like if you don't have anyone to talk to in real life about it, but to live in there and just argue back and it's got to twist your mind in a really fucked up way to where you're, hating on anyone and everyone that pisses you off in the most subtle way, or just do it just to piss them off. All this wild internet comment gnarliness that happens. But yeah, lots of people just shitting on him for trying to get views, and even though he said, this is what he's sent to us, we don't know what he's going to say. Just saying, but it could be. I'm gonna lean with the skeptics on this side. Probably not going to be that earth-shattering. At the very least, maybe he has something, information or photograph, video, that in his mind and with what he's experienced is earth-shattering to him. But when he shares it, everyone's going to be like, what? I don't believe you, that kind of thing. At the very least. At the worst, he is hyping up his interview on this podcast so he can cash in some nebulous way that isn't immediately clear. I don't know. But there's a little, go watch that. I'll probably check it out if I remember. I should remember, because I'll have to edit this podcast in between, and I'll be reminded that that's what I was talking about. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. or Friday, February 21st, 2 p.m. on the Night Shift, streaming on YouTube. Night Shift podcast. All right. We'll see about that. So speaking about that, probably in conclusion, I'm going to pull up the video that he's talking about, which is this alien. So this Jon Stewart guy claims that he's got some earth-shattering new evidence about this video that a lot of people have talked about. Came out in 1997, apparently. I hadn't heard about it till like a couple months ago when I discovered it through scrolling through Reddit when I was bored. And it's very strange. It's very creepy. I'll give my thoughts on it after I watch through it. Actually, no, because I'm going to pause it because there's a couple. It's not super long if you haven't seen it. I lean towards it not being real, and I'll explain more as to why I think that. I can't prove that it's not real, but the burden of proof kind of thing. Then again, I fully believe in highly evolved conscious beings on other planets that can telepathically communicate with us. It is what it is. But this does not seem to suggest that. Although, actually, there is a... Anyway, let's watch it. But again, let me just reiterate. I meant to, before I started, I meant to end with this Jon Stewart guy is apparently going to reveal some information that I guess validate or uncovers the truth about this video. Something changes paradigm. I don't know. Let's watch it together. I forgot to mention this isn't the original. This is like someone sped it up and sharpened the contrast. They like kind of remastered it and made it sound like it wasn't like a guy with a disguised voice as it originally was. All right, from the top.
All right, we're looking at the interview suite at S4. It's kept dark for the comfort of the aliens. The figure who is just barely visible in the left foreground is the telepath, and behind the camera is a raked seating area for observers. Although in this case...
So, first of all, I don't see the man. Somebody says like there's the figure that you can see in the foreground is the telepath. So, we got the telepath thing going on, which as I've said in the past, if this whole phenomenon is very real, and I believe it is, I also fully believe that it has something deeply connected with consciousness and therefore the evolved ability of telepathic, psionic, whatever you want to call it, higher conscious abilities. So I do like that aspect of it in terms of validity, but that's just, anyone can make that. Like, I could make this video. People also comment that the alien moves like a puppet, which it kind of does, but there's been a lot of credible arguments. By credible, I mean just logically, as to if the grays, and this kind of looks like that kind of gray thing, isn't really a biological originated being. It's more of a technology avatar, meat robot with a consciousness kind of thing. So it could make sense that if it's moving like a puppet, then that's because it's kind of robotic. I don't know. Let's keep playing.
I believe the only other person present was a military aide. The alien is seated behind a glass partition in a biocontainment area, which is maintained at biosafety level 2, the lowest designation. That's primarily for the protection of the aliens, not us. The theory is that if they were going to infect us with an alien bug, it would have happened 50 years ago. In fact, all the indications are the aliens eliminated microbial and viral life from their own ecosystem long ago. They aren't susceptible to our diseases directly, but it has been shown that microbes can reproduce and form colonies within their respiratory systems, which tends to exacerbate the debilities.
So they got him behind some kind of containment thing. I mean, that would all make sense. So he says that they're in S4. So it seems like, and this was in 1997, this video was made, or at least released, along with some documentary via this guy who's only known as Victor. I didn't watch the whole documentary that this is from, or that is about this, but that was released at the same time, or around the same time. But it seems like it's predicated around the Bob Lazar story, given the whole S4 thing and whatnot, and other stories. I mean, there was plenty of stories by 1997 anyway. To if you were to fake this, to put it all together into this display in this manner. Yeah, it's so creepy to it. Like, what's up with the lighting? I get that it's like, it's a VHS situation, but, or whatever you call, whatever the old cameras, but it's like so dark. All you can see is an illuminated alien head and like what kind of looks like a desk. I'm very confused as to what I'm being shown. He says you're seeing it's behind a glass containment thing. I don't know. I don't really know. Anyway, let's keep playing it. It's not that
to
long.
suffer anyway in our environment. In fact, you can see here the alien is beginning to flag. The interview was not going well. The telepath was trying to clarify some points.
This is where it starts to get even like, it starts to get like, okay, it sounds like you're hamming it up a little too much. And then right before he was talking about because why they're in the containment thing and the respiratory, they can have bacteria colonizing their respiratory tracts, their biosphere, whatever was eliminated a little while ago, so they don't have a threat to us, but we're a threat to them, something like that.
Previous interview, but he wasn't receiving coherent responses. As you can see, the being is in real distress. At this point, the telepath is sending out a message to the medical staff. He's trying to communicate with the alien, but he's getting no response. There's very little he can do.
Bouncing around.
There's no direct connection between his space and the biocontainment area. That's the aide stepping in on the right. The medical staff should be there by now. They're slow in responding. There they are. I have to say the medical personnel at S4 are less than first rate. They tend to be selected for their willingness to keep secrets rather than their medical competence.
The medical staff at S4 are less than first rate. I guess that would make sense, but the willingness to keep secrets is more important. But the way he talks about it, like, is that really the way you're going to talk about it? It seems strange. Again, it's so hard to understand what I'm looking at. Because at first you think like, oh, it's like far away through a glass. But then when the people step in, the medical staff, it looks like they're almost right in front of the camera. So it's so hard to make out what the foreground is supposed to be. Maybe I'm just being visually retarded right now, or every time I've seen it, but let's see how it ends.
He's not shining that light into the eyes. It looks that way, but in fact he's checking for hemorrhaging around the eye sockets and in the nasal cavity. I'm sorry. It's very hard for me to watch this.
That part is like and that's how it ends. So I'm sorry, it's very hard for me to watch this. Again, all things that would be plausible to that, that you would say if that was a real situation, but it's also a little much. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to watch this. The way he talks, although it is a disguised voice and then it's sped up in that version. Pretty strange. Pretty strange. So hopefully, the more I think about this weird alien interview, I mean, well, let's be clear. This is taken absolutely not serious by any of the more skeptic leaning people. Even I'm not. I mean, I always try to have a healthy amount of skepticism, but I'm more leaning on the believer end here, just in general. And even me, it's like, come on, is this? I mean, could be, but I'm leaning that it's not. But you never. I mean, it was a part of a documentary. Seems like a sensationalist view, attention grabbing UFO, like all of those older, especially not even the 90s, not even just the 90s, but the early 2000s, the 2010s. If you go on Amazon Prime, you'll see a fuck ton of alien tabloid kind of shows where it puts together all the stories, and they have like these terrible recreations and all the just over dramatization of all of it, and it's clear, it's very clear that it's like, this is to entertain you and to get your attention. I mean, that's made to look like a real thing, so it's a little different, but it just gives me that whole vibe. But if this Jon Stewart guy produces some sort of convincing evidence or argument or whatever for me to believe that, I kind of want to believe that's real. At the same time, I don't, because it is kind of disturbing if that's what they're doing, and if that's a little guy there. He did not seem to be having a good time in that containment unit, but nonetheless, it's what it is. And by the time this is out, maybe there'll be some groundbreaking information on it, or everyone will be let down again, as is the most common case. I'll leave us here with a fun rationalisms of just thinking about, just fun thoughts about the super skeptical. I always, these thoughts get spurred on. Last week I did a rant about the people, everyone using the word grifter too much and just way too quick to call people grifters, and how everyone needs to make money. Just because you're making money off something doesn't mean, and it's an extraordinary thing, doesn't mean you're necessarily lying about it, yada yada. But, and then after seeing that Reddit, the response to the comments of that guy posting the press release from the podcast into r/aliens, I started to think more about why people get so, like, people seem so genuinely pissed that even the thought, even the inkling of, we have new and it's just like, fuck you, go fuck yourself. Like, that's the energy I feel from these people. And I wonder, like, why do you continue to interest yourself and invest so much of your emotional energy into this topic if all you do is shit on everything that comes out about it? And I get it if it's like, well, I haven't seen the evidence, sir. And they keep telling me they have evidence, and then it's not evidence. And it's like, okay, if you need to see it for yourself with your own eyes, that's respectable, but that's probably not going to happen for a long while, if it ever does. So just go live your life and forget about it. If you don't expect anything else to come out like that, or anything to come out like that, why waste your negativity on the internet shitting on everyone? I guess they're like, they still have a shred of hope, so they're like, I'll monitor the subreddit to see maybe something will come up and I'll be convinced, but it never does, and they just keep getting mad at everything. I guess it kind of ties into the hater mentality, I guess, which I've never really understood, because I've never been a true hater of anything. I mean, if everyone hates things. I hate some things, but they were always internalized. I never externalized those thoughts, especially into comments on the internet. That's, if I have a serious problem with someone, I'm gonna just wait till I can talk to them to their face. Not that you can, find these people face to face if you're on the internet. Anyway, but I came up with an interesting analogy. It's kind of wild, but bear with me. It reminds me in a weird way, reverse. So I was thinking about the conspiracy world, right? And I thought about how flat earth people refuse to, in the same way that the ultra skeptical UFO interested people, but are ultra skeptical on literally everything that talks about them or proposes evidence for or reasonings for, and they shit all over it, but they're still interested in it. It reminds me of how flat earth people, but this is the opposite. This is like the anti-version, because this is, to me, the flat earth people are the ones that are the more crazy on the conspiracy end. But in the same spirit, they are given all of this. You believe the earth is flat because you can't see it. You know, the earth doesn't appear flat to me in front of my eyes, so I don't believe it. Here's a picture of Earth from outer space. That's a lens effect, or that's a doctored image. It's not real. You got to take me up to space. That's going to be hard. So, okay, well then I'll wait for more evidence. Okay, the Earth is round. You can tell by like going on a boat and looking over the horizon across the ocean and not seeing land on the other side, because much like you see light from stars that are billions of light years away hitting your eyes, your eyes don't, the photons will travel to your eyes if there's a path from across the ocean with the cities over there, especially at night. You just see a dark. Okay, so, that doesn't make sense to me. I don't believe that. Okay. So what I'm saying is the flat Earth people have all this pretty convincing evidence, whether it's anecdotally from astronauts, pictures, science, math, all of this stuff, but because they can't conceive of it mentally, which is kind of understandable if you have the mind of a caveman, or like if you lived in the time before we had telescopes and science and math, you can, I see how you can convince yourself that the Earth is flat, because you can't tell that it's round unless you were to literally zoom yourself out off the planet until you see that it's round. The same way, it reminds me of how skeptics of the people that are interested in UFOs being real, they get, but they're always like, no, I don't believe this, no, I don't believe that, no, I don't believe that. There's all this evidence. Oh, okay, well, there's all these, this guy's from the military, he has a testimony, he swore to truth, this and that. Nope, he's lying. This guy, this guy has another story. It is very similar. Oh, coincidence. This guy's a completely a civilian person, but he's a scientist and he studies these things or whatever. Nope, he's whatever. This guy has this experience and he wrote a whole book about it, and it's extremely detailed. And why would he make this up? Nope, it's a lie. Bob Lazar literally ruined his life by talking about this and never makes any money from it. And he's got divorced and the FBI raided his, all these things. Oh, he's a grifter. It's like, okay, here's a bunch of pictures that are pretty convincing, but you can obviously can't be 100% confirmed. Nope, don't believe it. You see what I'm trying to get at? In a weird, twisted way, the UFO deniers who are interested in UFOs remind me of flat Earth people who are always asked to be convinced that the Earth is round, but refuse to accept it until they see it themselves. I think that's a pretty good analogy, except for the fact that the Earth is obviously round, and the Earth is much more obviously round, and there's more evidence for the Earth to be round than there is for UFOs and NHI and all this to exist. So it's not a perfect analogy, but I feel like there's something there. It's like at a certain point, you gotta at least give a little to it. It's all about the balance. It's all about the balance. In the end, that's what I'm all about. It's not about which side is right, it is about who has more evidence, but what I'm trying to say is it's about balance versus extremists. In the same way, most people who, it's kind of like an atheist saying you're an idiot for believing in God. God doesn't exist, is just as bad as a religious zealot saying you must believe in God or you're going to go to hell. It's like they're both diametrically opposed, but they are both extreme in their beliefs of something that they can't really prove or disprove. Same thing's going on with the UFO thing. There's enough to kind of suggest that something's going on, but nobody can fully convince you of the other without just coming to your own conclusions based on your experiences or just deductive reasoning from all the information that's out there about it. And that's how I've come to my conclusions, coupled with my spiritual psychedelic experiences that blew my mind wide open to things like this. And I think that's where we'll leave it. I could keep philosophizing about this stuff, but just about did an hour here, so perfect. Didn't go too long. Maybe next time I'll try the ChatGPT thing. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to say act like a skeptic and let me try to convince you, like play a role-playing game with ChatGPT voice chat. But that'll be for next time if I have enough time. Or, who knows, might be, well, as I say every week, next week might be about the official disclosure that actually happens. Or the alien interview, Jon Stewart potential information. We'll see. Peace and love. Zeta Reticuli, home sweet home. Let's go. Keep looking up. That's what they say. See you next week.